This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. An interesting week to talk to somebody who's there in Berea every day, pretty much, that the Browns are in there. Cam Justice, she covers the Browns for Channel 5, does some great stuff on their digital front as far as content wise. I think, no, it's not even digital anymore. It's on, plays during the Cleveland Browns games. So, you know, she's doing her thing there. Cam, always happy to have you on. It has been a week that I feel like, in two ways, it is a great week to have your bye week and a bad week to have your bye week. Okay. On the fronts that I think it's a good week to have your bye week, Myles Garrett's in a boot. Now everybody seems confident that he's okay. Doesn't help that we felt that same way about the quarterback, but Myles Garrett's a different person. I feel like he's going to be all right. We seen this man flip a car before and play football games. Like, he's going to be out there. So there's that trust there. Then David Njoku, he gets what seemed to be serious burns all over his body. And he actually played pretty well. So shout out to David for toughing that out and playing that out there. Shout out to Za'Darius, who played through an injury there with his ankle. And then also Myles Garrett, who played through an injury, came back into the game. And it was a blowout at that point, and played there. One player who did not play through an injury. It was a weird situation all week, right? He practices Tuesday. They don't let him throw. Okay, I'm thinking, the staff's kind of cautious. They don't like to, if there's something slightly wrong, they're going to be the most cautious version of this. So I wasn't really any alarm bells ringing there. He threw more on Wednesday, and I was like, all right, cool, we're on the right track. But then Thursday comes, and he takes, 2 throws in practice, and he's done. Like, he's no longer throwing for the whole day. And that's a little bit of a concern. Now, from what I hear, and Cam, you correct me if I'm wrong, the general vibe was he was playing, right? Absolutely. Like, it's not that big of a deal. He's going to play. That's what we left Berea with. I think you mentioned Alex Van Pelt laughed at the notion that he wouldn't.
Laughed.
Okay. So we leave Thursday. He's playing. He's questionable, but he's playing. Look, he looked at people and said, I'm playing. Friday, Saturday happens. What did you see during the workout when he got out there before Sunday's game?
So Sunday, he was out there for just a few minutes, right? Just that was when they were going to check him out, evaluate if he could go. Kevin Stefanski said, after the game that it was about seeing if he could really throw the long ball, and because he hasn't he loved doing that. His light throwing was just some couple little quick passes, and it was his mental reps throughout the week. So it was, can he throw the ball? And so it wasn't a lot. And he was only out there for a short amount of time while they were evaluating him. They're watching him on the side, and he takes a couple final throws and walks over to them, and the body language did not feel good. Really the entire time. It didn't look as if he felt like he was going to go. And then they have the conversation. You can see them talking. DESHAUN leaves the field. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry were both out there watching. They leave the field. DESHAUN actually, before he left the field, talked to Alex Van Pelt for several minutes and then left. And then a couple minutes later is when the initial reports came out that he was not going to play. And we're still waiting, at that point, you're still waiting for official word. It was all sourcing, but he wasn't playing. And the fact that it came out like that was like, well, that's even weirder. Okay. So he's not playing, but it was a surprise to a lot of people. And I think it was a surprise to a lot of people because as the week went on, of course it was always a possibility. When you are on the injury report and you are listed as questionable, it is absolutely a possibility that player is not going to take the field. But all of the messaging throughout the week, despite him being limited, was like, it was as if it was precautionary, just kind of letting him feel comfortable as the week went on, but no one was really genuinely concerned. And they play these things very close to the vest often, where they're not, if the guy is really uncertain, if it's a game time decision, they'll say game time decision. They'll say, we'll have to wait and see. We're not going to, it's not, I'm hopeful. That's a direct quote. I'm hopeful, not we're optimistic, not we expect him to play. These are all things that were said throughout the week. That's not something that this team does if they aren't confident that a player is going to go. I think they really everybody thought that he was going to play. And I think he might have really thought that he was going to play. He said at his locker, I'm good. I'll play. And it felt like the other players, the teammates are talking to them and they're saying, we don't know his injury. We don't know it, but knowing him, he's going to play. Like, we fully expect him to play. They're saying this on Thursday, on Friday. Like, no one has any doubt, I feel like, at that point, that it was going to be something that would hinder him for the game. So then he comes out on Sunday and he does a quick warm up and it's ruled out. That, I think, was what made it so surprising, because it was just it seemed so nonchalant. Even if he was questionable, it didn't feel like that. And on the flip side, you've got a guy who gets added to the injury report in David Njoku, who you see that he's added to the injury report, and you see why. Burned on his face and his arm in a household accident. Then you learn that it was him trying to light a fire pit. And we don't know the details of that. That could be accelerant. That could really do some damage. And so everyone's a little concerned. Like, is he okay? Like, is he actually okay? Is he in the hospital? Like, what's going on? All these questions start happening. And it's not just some shoulder discomfort, a joint or something that's a little sore, just not really working. It's his physical well-being. You don't know. And so for him to be on that injury report, it almost felt more certain that he wouldn't play and that DESHAUN would play. And to see it flipped, I think that's what also made it so whoa, what's happening here? Like, is this worse than anyone thought? What would prevent him from playing in this game when other guys are, and you mentioned Za'Darius playing through ankle. Greg Newsome was back with the
fractured elbow, right?
Yeah, and he's got the elbow brace on, and he was working, he's been working throughout the week, and they're all out there playing. And so that, I think, is what played into the, I don't say jarring because it makes it sound very, very dramatic, but it was like a abrupt, I don't know that anyone expected that to happen Sunday morning. And so it's a weird thing to navigate through.
Now, I don't know if it's normal, but usually I don't know if with Baker 2021 and they were trying to check him out probably with the Thursday night game. I think the last time we were with this when it was Case Keenum, I think Baker was ruled out. Was he ruled out before that game, or was he a game time decision?
That was, I don't remember, but it was close. Wherever it was they either ruled him out the day before, or it was that game time decision. But in the week leading up to it, it was something that was, maybe he'll play. It wasn't quite sure until right around game day.
How long are those workouts for guys who are game time decisions usually before the game, depending on position? Because I remember Odell was in that position all the time. He was a Cleveland Brown. How long is that process usually?
It's not very long out there. It's just a couple minutes, because you can generally get a good idea of, if it's your leg, just doing a couple runs and just putting some weight on it and a couple sprints to see how it goes. If it's your arm, getting that range of motion, just getting a feel. That's what it plays into the most, is just how you actually feel when you're going through the minor stuff. So if you're uncomfortable and it's minor, okay, well, I'm not playing, right? It's or most of the time it's you're not playing. It's okay, I'm seeing that you are not your best. You winced when you took that step.
And the team doctor is the one who makes that determination.
This isn't good for you. Let's pump the brakes. And so it doesn't take very long to determine. Sometimes it'll be a little bit long, just depending on what the injury is and what the position is. I think they might be out there just a little bit longer, go through different workouts, stretches, things like that to see. But this one wasn't long, and that's pretty typical that it doesn't take long to tell. But it did just feel it felt like there wasn't much happening in those warm-ups, where it was he didn't go through a range of passes like where it was a very extensive thing. It felt very much like, okay, well, he doesn't feel like he can go.
Mm-hmm. And usually that's up to like that's usually the process, just to clear up, because I feel like people are saying that like Kevin has control over this, and I think it's usually the team doctor, the player. Those are the two who have the agency to make a decision here, right?
Yeah.
If the team doctor feels like the player wants to play but he should not, the team doctor can make that decision. If the team doctor feels like a player can technically play but the player doesn't feel right, that player can make that decision. That stuff's that's the normal part of that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a coach can just say on Monday, we're just going to rule DESHAUN out. That's just not how that process works.
And he has a say in it, absolutely has a say in it. But I don't think any coach is going to say like up front with their starting quarterback or a starting position of somebody that like they want to see out there. I don't think anyone's going to be, no, absolutely, you're not playing unless it is medically detrimental to them and they're just really, really, really pushing for it. Like if it's not the move, I think the Baker Mayfield, I think back to that, the Baker Mayfield Case Keenum thing. Like I'm sure Baker he always vocally said, I want to go. I think you like in a situation like that where a player is so adamant about something and it's not to their well-being and it's not to the team well-being, then a coach would step in and say, hey, I get your passion. I get you want to help the team, but let's think about this. But it doesn't need to come down to that because there's a general consensus. It's very clear cut normally. Like this is just not it. The injury is not where it needs to be. And there's a lot of pain happening. That's typically how those things go. Like he might need one more week because he's just like, we don't want to risk it. It's just a little too tight or he's just not getting where he needs. That is how it typically is very easy. I think this one is a weird one because the injury itself isn't something that's painful in the way that it is limiting the range of motion for him, limiting his
it's more mechanically related, right? Exactly. To his throwing motion.
I don't think that he feels the throwing is where he would like it to be or where it should be for him to feel comfortable.
Do you get the idea that maybe for him to go out there and play, he felt like he had to change his throwing motion and that factored into why he didn't want to go out there? Because he didn't want to, affect his mechanics negatively going forward? Could that have been part of the decision?
It could be. And that's what makes it weird some more too, right? It's like, they've said he's structurally, he's fine. Medically, he's fine. It's comfortability and it's just, the way that he is able to operate as a quarterback and feeling like he can and give it his all. What's weird to me, I think, and like that's again adds to the surprise is I think there may have been opportunities for him to play through that and not be your best. And nobody wants to do that. And nobody should really, have to, but if it's not a pain thing, I think that's what made it so surprising is like, can they adjust to his game to make it so he doesn't have to be put in positions where it would be limiting for him? You would limit him in a way, obviously, because you're not like if he doesn't have his full range, if he doesn't have the ability to get where he needs to be with his passing or even, him in motion and his mobility, throwing off platform, things like that. If that shoulder's like that, I get like you are limited, but I think there's always a way to play through that. Whether you might not put you in a best position to win, but they didn't win. And maybe you think like Dorian can do that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he can do that for you. And it just didn't go the way they hoped or maybe thought that he would be able to do in his first NFL outing. It just maybe was a little too much. I didn't think it was going to be too much for him. I think that he's really made for these moments. And I don't think this breaks him necessarily. Like, I think that was a concern too, is like, if he doesn't play well, is that going to break his confidence? I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is very good being a pro, and he's not a pro. He's a rookie. Like he's just now getting into this, but I think he's got the right mindset, which is why I didn't feel it was going to be that tough for him, as tough as it was, as much as he struggled. I didn't see that one coming. I figured he would show up as a rookie, but it was a rough day for him, and it was really unfortunate. I don't know that was
a welcome to the NFL day.
Yeah, I don't know that his team anticipated that either. I'm sure they thought that he would have some growing pains, and might not be pretty at all times because he's a rookie and it's his first NFL start against a very tough defense in the Ravens. But I don't know that it was thought that it was going to be that bad, and so that also played into this becoming more of a thing than it might have been. And that's all these questions, people concerned about how this played out. That I think plays into it because of how bad the game went and how tough that loss was. Mm-hmm. It feels like, okay, well, if that was going to be the outcome, you can't predict that, but if that's going to be the outcome, you might as well have just played limited and not been able to do a lot. And you probably maybe you lose and maybe you don't look great, but at least maybe try. I think that's like where a lot of people are like confused of, well, how bad is this injury then? Like, because he's through pain. He's done this. It's not as if he doesn't know how, and he's not a guy that will do that. Like he'll just sit out because I don't really want to feel pain. He's done it before. So I think it draws questions of what this injury actually is doing like to him and why it became I can't go. I don't feel like I can go.
Yeah, whatever it was. I mean, he played through some version of it after he heard it on Sunday, right? Like, so I just
a quarter and a half.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. How convinced are you that this is just, do you think this is going to be something that, hey, after the bye week, we're going to be done with and it's just going to be another thing in the pile of like weird Cleveland Browns stories that last like 2 weeks? Or do you think this has the possibility to become a lingering thing like the Baker Mayfield labrum or like the Joe Burrow calf, Lamar Jackson knee, like these things that kind of, they seem like they'll be gone in 3 weeks, but it's 2 months later, we're still talking about it.
Yeah, I think every injury like this, a joint, a strain, something that's kind of eats you. It's not a break or like a fracture where you cast up and you just have to wait for it to heal. It's one of those, we'll see how the tissue, like the swelling goes down. You have to wait on that. There's no kind of rhyme or reason other than just waiting. So, I mean, it very well could linger, but I think the general consensus is that it's not. I think that was the consensus all week. I thought, going into making it a surprise, I think that they thought this was going to be something that, all right, like it's kind of limited him throughout the week. He'll be able to play. He'll have the bye. He'll rest. He'll be good. I think the bye does come at a good time. If there's a good time to have a bye week in week 5, like, I don't know. It's very early to have it, but with DESHAUN's shoulder being what it is and him not being able to play on Sunday, and then, he said Miles having the foot, Ethan Posick going out twice in that game. Like you've got guys that are banged up, and to have this now seems like a very good time. And DESHAUN specifically, what his shoulder seems to require is that time of just letting swelling go down, letting things heal and feel comfortable and get back to where it needs to be. And there's not much you can do if it's just that. All you can do is wait. So I think that it does have the potential to linger a little bit, but I would say the bye gives a good shot of it just kind of being something we talk about at the end of the season. Like, hey, remember that weird week 4? That was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully it's an aberration. But we'll see how these things play out going forward. It's just another weird thing to add on the weird DESHAUN pile, right? Since he's gotten here in 2022. It's just another thing to add to the pile that's, unfortunately, it's growing, where it's like, okay, there's this thing, there's that thing, there's this, and it's, again, I think he's going to play well. He's going to bounce back, play well. I think his play is going to be fine, but I think these weird things are always going to be on our mind. when a situation like this pops up again, where it's like, okay, but remember that shoulder, right? Like, is that it? Or is this going to be something that, like, anytime he has a bad game, you know, is this the new rust, right? Like, is this going to be the new rust? And I'm just not interested in doing that. And at this point, it's like, hey, man, if he's ready to play, if he goes out there, he's just going to be criticized or praised based on what he does out there. I don't really think I'm not really interested in adding more qualifiers to it either way. So it's another thing to add in here. To say that this regime, this start to the quarterback era has gotten off to a sloppy start, I feel like it's an underestimate. It's an understatement at this point because it seems like every time it looks like it's about to take off, something happens. You know what I mean? He throws three touchdowns in the second half in Washington. We feel great. And then he goes into Pittsburgh, plays the worst game in the 6. You know, he has a great camp. Looks like everything was like pretty normal for like 2 months there. Great camp. Looks good. Everything looks on the up and up. First game that rains, all right, cool, whatever. Second game, it's a disaster versus Pittsburgh. And then he comes back, plays well versus a Tennessee team that turned out to be pretty decent, right? And then this happens. And it's like, I just want 2 good weeks back to back, Cam. Like,
and you know what? And I think that he probably might want that too. And so to come out of the bye, and this is where it's tough, is I'm sure he wants that. And to come out of the bye, you're healthy, hopefully, right? And you're playing. The challenge is that you're coming out of the bye and you are playing the San Francisco 49ers. And so you have to look good. You have to play well because it's not going to be, you know, a battle against the Bengals, who you have their number. And we've seen as their season has gone on, they are just not playing well. So it's one thing to beat a team like that. It's another to beat a now 4-0. We'll see what happens for them later, but a very, very tough 49ers team. It's a big challenge. They're strong defense and they're not going to take it easy on you. So you come out of that and you don't play week 4 because your shoulder's a little banged up. You're just not where you need to be. You have a week off. Now, so that's 2 weeks off. You've got to come out and you've got to look. And so that's a lot of pressure. It's going to be really interesting how he responds to that. But there are, I don't think, a lot of excuses left for him in regards to that. Like it's going to be tough, but he's got to look good. I really think he has to look good. And that's a lot of pressure, but that's the position he's in, where he's got to shoulder that. I hate to use that word. That was unfortunate, but he's got to shoulder that pressure. And and that's
there hasn't been a more fortunate week for pun writers than I remember I had a good one on Lauren Rutledge because she was like, oh yeah, let's go make that chip on his shoulder bigger. We're talking about Baker Mayfield. And I was like, all that chip did was tear his labrum.
You know, these things sometimes they write themselves.
You know what I mean? Like, the shoulder injuries. And look, shoulder injuries are freaky. Sometimes it could be the yip. Sometimes it could be nerve damage. Like, shoulder injuries are one of those things where it's like, it's hard. It's kind of like it's not a head injury. Like, head injuries are the ultimate mystery, but shoulders can be mysteries, right? Like, more so shoulders and backs, right? Yes. You don't want to see shoulders and backs go bad. Like, knees can be fixed. We figured that out. Yep. The nerve stuff there, that's not that hard to figure out. But for whatever reason, the shoulder and the back and the neck, like this apparatus, your back torso, that's a very hard area for your nerves. It's a very complicated area. And it's just difficult to know what the extent of an injury is unless you're in that body. I would hope that DESHAUN made a decision based in football saying, hey, I can't play a football game today. I would just wonder, when was that known? Was it just known then? And if it was just known on Sunday, what happened on Friday and Saturday that, you know, not saying anything physically happened to his shoulder, but like what happened Friday and Saturday to the pain or something? Like, did it change? And he's going to be asked these questions. It's going to be interesting to see how he answers them. Hopefully we get some insight to that, because I just think the one bad thing about this happening on the bye week is that we have 2 weeks to think about this and 2 weeks to ask questions about this. And 2 weeks to get answers from this, and I'm not 100% sure answers are on their way. And that's just going to lead to more and more talk about this injury, where if there was a game, he would be on the injury report, practicing, not practicing, we would know. Unfortunately, fortunately, he's not going to practice for a week. Unfortunately, we're not going to know if he could practice for a week. So I would just, for my outside looking in, if I were talking to Browns fans, which I am, I would say this is something we should remain vigilant on. I don't think it's a high chance that he doesn't play against the 49ers, but I just would not feel comfortable ruling that out given how this week unfolded.
No, and I think that what I would like to see in this bye week, and I'm sure that's what's happening because they are, like to think, more competent than we've seen in different years past, and a lot of other teams that are happening right now. The chaos that is in Cleveland is a little different than chaos that is happening in other NFL teams around the league.
Chicago,
where
they're suspending players left and right.
100%. So it's not that yet, but I do think this bye week is a good chance. We talk about the responsibility that DESHAUN has here with his injury and getting through this and playing and not playing, but it also does fall on the coaching staff and the organization to make sure that you have a solid game plan just in case. It's a lot to ask, right? To have maybe two different game plans. You can't have two totally different game plans for one game. That's chaotic, and that just leads to miscommunication, and it's too much. That's way too much. But they could have been much better in their preparation to have Dorian Thompson-Robinson out there and maybe make some better adjustments there. And so I think moving forward, knowing that even if it was a surprise to them that DESHAUN wasn't playing, I think this was a nice wake-up call to say, okay, we've got to have, at least in our brains, maybe not on paper, but in our brains and in the back of our heads, we have to be ready for if DESHAUN doesn't play against the 49ers. I think that he probably should if he was this close to playing on Sunday with a bye week. To me, there's no doubt, but also that week kind of changed how I feel about everything. I don't know anymore. I know nothing. But to be honest, now I think this is a reality check of everyone has to be better. DESHAUN has to, he's going to have to come out and play good. He's going to have to play well, and he's going to have to really work on just waiting, seeing if he can go and maybe playing through it. You just kind of have to. But it also comes down to, if he can't go, what can they do to put Dorian in a better position? What can they do to maybe it's PJ Walker. Maybe it's not Dorian's time yet. Maybe it's catering the playbook and having some more screen passes and RPO, running some RPO for Dorian if he does have to be the guy. I think this kind of opened the door to see okay, this was Dorian's first NFL start, and he is a rookie. He's the primetime lights of the preseason are over. He's in his element. He is a human. He's a kid. An adult kid.
And to give the Baltimore Ravens their credit too, CJ Stroud did not look like he has the last 3 weeks when he played them his first game in his rookie year, right? Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked predictably awful versus what is a good defense. And also, you have to throw in, Nick Chubb's not walking through those doors anymore.
Exactly.
Which means when you throw DTR out there and you have Jerome Ford back there, there's nothing that the Ravens are stressed about defensively. There's nothing that's going to pull them out of their rules as a defense. They're not going to cheat. They're not going to get out of their depth. They're not going to give you easy throws because there's nothing to force them out of their looks because you don't have Nick Chubb there. So I don't know what could have been done schematically to help DTR out, because you want to throw screens against the Ravens. It's a bad idea. Roquan Smith is right there, right?
That's a bad one.
They're not the team you want to have your rookie debut against.
Yep.
That's a really good defense, and they play really sound football. They've been doing it for years. I don't know if Josh Dobbs or PJ Walker, I know for a fact they don't change the result, right? I don't think you're making up 27 points with PJ Walker or Josh Dobbs. Honestly, you can have Nick Chubb out there. I don't think it changes the result of that game. Maybe because you don't turn the ball over as much, right? But it's one of those things where it's hey, Nick Chubb's not walking through that door, which means DESHAUN's got to stay healthy, which means he has to make sure he stays healthy when he's out there on the field, which includes, hey, maybe don't ram your body into two linebackers on the 6-yard line when you're up 10. Maybe, well, no, 17, my bad. Up 17, right? To put the dagger in to get a highlight. Like maybe just slide. Maybe just slide. Maybe just don't take the hit. Maybe just get rid of the ball a little quicker.
And he talked about that. He mentioned that before that. And that's the other thing is, he knows that he's got to put himself in a better position, I think, in that regard. But he also knows how to do that. And he was asked about it on Wednesday when we talked to him before knowing that he was not going to be able to throw. And he was asked about taking those hits, those hard hits. And he said, you just got to be able to know, like, it's part of the game, but you got to be able to know and kind of balance it out. And that was one of those ones where you got to know, don't take that hit. Like, don't take the hit. And I think that's something he probably now thinks about a little bit more after this ordeal.
I just hope that they learned the right lessons, right? Because there's a level of right lessons you can learn from that game. Mm-hmm. Hey, we don't have Nick Chubb. We cannot throw a backup quarterback out there and be fine anymore. I know they've been able to do that in years past and be fine. Nick Chubb was the reason. You have him no more. So that reality, like, DTR will play better games than that in his career. Like, that's not going to be the normal for DTR. I think a lot of people are acting like that's just what he is. Like, no.
That's not what he is.
If you weren't ready, like, CJ Stroud had a horrible game versus them. DTR is not CJ Stroud. So, like, of course he had a worse game. So that's whatever it is. He'll play better, but the thing that I think they need to take away is, hey, we've been a little reckless with the quarterback position. We've been running way too many quarterback directs. We've been too comfortable with him taking hits. We've been doing things that have been putting him in position to get hit as an offense, and DeShaun himself has not been doing enough to protect himself from those hits. And your career can go one of two ways. You can take all those hits, and you could be Cam Newton, who had the peak of his career at 27, and was pretty much cooked by 28. Like, you can have that career if you want to take all those hits. And like keep your eye out for Josh Allen, because right now it's hot, but he keeps taking hits like that. Mm-hmm. Same thing look at what's going on with Joe Burrow right now. He's not even old. Like, he's still he just got out of his rookie deal. So yeah, those hits aren't a joke in the NFL. So if you want to play longer, you want to have the Pat Mahomes career, you want to have the Aaron Rodgers career. Brett Favre's a great example of this, right? Brett Favre used to play the most reckless football. People forget. Brett Favre used to run back in the day. Like, he used to truck people and block guys and do all kind of reckless stuff with his body. But you know how he became the longest, like, he had that long streak where he just didn't miss a game? Because he got rid of the ball, because he stopped doing the stuff that was super reckless with his body. He was still reckless with the football, but reckless with his body, and he was able to evolve, play longer. You see, Pat Mahomes don't really take hits anymore, right? He slides. Lamar Jackson does a good job of not taking hits. Like, he played that whole game in Cleveland. The only time he took a hit was when he got sacked in the pocket. Like, he did not take a single hit running the ball. He gets out of bounds. It's never been a problem with him, right? And for DeShaun, he doesn't have those instincts for whatever reason. He has to develop them. And if they don't, like, we're going to see a lot of this. We're like, hey, DeShaun's missing because he's 28 now. The body doesn't heal like it used to. Hopefully that's the wake up call they got. I'm 28. I can't take these hits anymore. I can't play the same style I did the last time I played when I was 25. My body just, I know in football, we say this thing. We're like, well, he doesn't have 3 years of hits on him, as if you don't naturally age from like, whether you play football or not. Like, my body's not the same from when I was 23. I have played 0 years in the NFL. So I promise you, you still age. Like, your body gets older. And maybe this was the wake up call for them, right? Okay, I can't do this stuff. I hope what the lesson they don't take away is, man, I should have just played and just sucked it up. Because, like, on one level, I understand that instinct, because yes, you hindsight being 2020, I bet he probably wishes he would have played, right? Mm-hmm. All things being said. But the problem isn't that you didn't play as much as you got injured doing something that you really didn't have to do. That's the bigger issue, right? You're going to be a running threat. You don't have to take those hits. You're still a good athlete. You don't have to. You're a good enough athlete to get out of bounds half the time. You choose to cut back upfield sometimes. Like, it's not that you can't do what you want to do anymore. You just have to be more mindful of it.
And I hope that it's not him, because he said before, he said it since last year and going into this offseason and before the season started, he's been asked about his expectations for himself and where he wants to be. And everyone is asking him, like, how do you get back to being elite? How do you get back to being a top 5 quarterback? Is that something that you want to do? And all these goals to be known as one of the elite quarterbacks in this league, right? I hope that, and he says he's not pressuring, he's just trying to be the best version of himself. I hope that can actually be the case for him, where he doesn't feel as if he needs to make those big, crazy highlight plays where he's running back inside and taking a hit just for those extra yards because he can, and it's big, and the big play quarterbacks do that, and it makes him look elite. Because I think the definition to me of an elite quarterback is a quarterback that plays to their strengths, plays well, helps the team get wins, and helps themselves to the highest ability that they can. And I think that where he said, he's older, taking those hits, to be able to evolve and to play your game differently, to me, is what screams elite. And I hope that is what his mentality is. I hope that he can see that it doesn't have to be what he was doing when he was 23, 24. It's what you can do now to play at the highest level that you can play and make your team better for it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I hope he sees that. I don't know. We'll see. But I do hope, and I think that he absolutely has the mentality and to embrace that. It's just getting there and the realization of not doing too much, but doing as much as you can. And even if it's not all that you can give, like if not 100%, you give all that you can give. It's 90%, it's 80%, but you're still giving it. I hope that is a lesson that is taken away and is really embodied by him and this entire team.
I'll put it like this. I am all in on my YouTube channel. I don't spend every cent that I have on my YouTube, I make from YouTube, on the YouTube channel, right? I have to make sure that I am smart with how I delegate these resources, right? That I'm thinking long term. I could get one check, put a big ass screen in the back and look like I'm on like Sirius satellite radio, whatever it is, and have it. But that would be a very irresponsible decision because then I wouldn't be able to pay rent, right? Like sometimes being all in isn't just literally pushing all your chips in. Sometimes being all in is being smart with how you're going to delegate your resources. And for DESHAUN, it's hits. He has to be smart with he only has so many hits he can take. And you don't want to waste those hits trying to get a ball out of bounds because you scrambled to extend it for 3 extra seconds. And then boom, Jeffrey Simmons comes across your chest, hits you super hard. That's a waste of a hit. And maybe in your 20s, you had enough hits to where, hey, you could just waste them like that. I could just take these hits. But now it's a delicate resource for him. And he needs to understand, okay, that's not there. This isn't there. Throw it out of bounds, right? Like instead of, let me run over, maybe take a hit and waste a hit there, just throw it out of bounds, check it down, right? Like that's what the process needs to evolve to. When it comes to runs, I could get 15. But the hit's not worth it. I'm going to just get 12. You know what 12 is? A first down. You know what 15 is? A first down. Okay. I don't need to take the hit. And maybe, a lot of guys are grow up in this football mindset where it's like, it's soft to avoid a hit. And that's all good and all when you're in preschool or whatever. It's actually not. It's a pretty bad mindset that we teach these kids, but it's like, okay, whatever. Like you get that in high school, but the second you start to play for money or for other people's money in the terms of college football, now you got to start being a little bit more calculated like this and say what you want. Nobody calls Lamar Jackson soft, but you know what Lamar Jackson does? Slide. You know what Lamar Jackson does? Get out of bounds. You know what Lamar Jackson doesn't do? Take a bunch of hits. Say what you want. You can call Pat Mahomes whatever you want. Nobody calls him soft, but he slides. He doesn't take those hits. He's not trying to He's not playing the Jets trying to crash his shoulder into Quentin Williams to get 3 extra yards. Like, that's not what Pat Mahomes is trying to do. You have to be smart, and you have to start treating these hits like they're resources. Like, you got to budget them, basically. And right now they've been rolling like they don't have a budget for these quarterback hits, and they've already busted their first quarter hits in 3 weeks. And now you're seeing the consequence of it. Now I hope they realize that these hits are on a budget, and that, look, Cam's one of the greats. He's had some of the best runs, but he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. And the reason he's not going to be a Hall of Famer is because he never budgeted the hits. He just never did. And it destroyed his body when it came time.
Don't have that longevity.
And if DeShaun doesn't want to be doing a podcast in 3 years and instead like is playing professional football still, he has to budget the hits. Like, it's just, that's as simple. I don't think it's the style. I think people make too much. Oh, it's the style. No, you could play the style, not take the hits. I just named like 14 quarterbacks who play the style, don't take the hits. It's not the style. You could play your style. You could play your brand of football. You just got to take out the part where you're trying to truck somebody in the middle of a regular season game for no reason. Like, that part has to go. It's the same thing, and ironically, we did the same math with Baker Mayfield, where Baker Mayfield clearly wasn't an athlete. Like, he had no business trying to do this stuff. But, Baker would do things like, I'm going to try to truck somebody. I'm going to try to stiff arm somebody. I'm going to try to tackle somebody. And he would end up just getting hurt. And that really affected his run here in Cleveland. So if you're DeShaun, if you're Kevin, I think Kevin understands this. The question is like, hey, is DeShaun, who understands the concept? I don't want to insult his intelligence. He understands the concept. It's a very simple concept. Is he committed to it? Is the question. Because everybody understands the budget. Not everybody is committed to a budget. About this age is when you get committed to a budget financially. For him, he needs to get committed to that budget with his physical health. And I think that's the most important thing to come out the bye week. Is DeShaun going to be conscious of the budget of hits he has to take going forward? Because if he's not, we're going to see DTR start like 4 games. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you win all 4 of those games. But it doesn't help the team.
You don't want to see that. And you don't want to see it for the team. You don't want to see it for the offense. You don't want to see it for Dorian. Like, Dorian Thompson-Robinson should not be put in that position. He should not have been put in that position on Sunday against the Ravens. It's part of the job, absolutely, but the position that he was in wasn't conducive for him. It wasn't conducive for the team. And so to have him in for 4, like, if you had to play him more games, you don't want that for him. You want him to be able to develop. He has an incredible skill set, and you were shown that he needs to be worked on, and he needs to have learning lessons. He is a work in progress, very much so. And he's got the fundamentals of like the intangibles that you need, the athleticism. He's got the things that you look for in a guy that you can develop as your backup quarterback. And he's a rookie, so you've got years to do it, but you don't want to play him in so many games in his rookie year. And then maybe you do break him, or maybe it is detrimental to his growth. So for him, you don't want that. For DeShaun, you don't want that because he's your starting quarterback. You want to see him out there. So these are things that they definitely have to be thinking about, and DeShaun has to be thinking about. And the one good thing that comes out of having an early bye is getting this all figured out, because you got a lot of season left, and you've shown that this can be a very good football team. The defense, there is no question that this defense can be elite. The offense showed what it could do. There has been
the blueprint is we've seen the blueprint. Yeah, we've seen the proof of concept.
Exactly.
It's just this part of it, right?
Yep.
Hey, no Nick Chubb, the offense can be fine as long as DeShaun's playing at a good level. But we need DeShaun to play at a good level and be healthy. And part of that is, and I think honestly, it would help him be a better quarterback if he budgeted the hits, because one, he would stay healthier. Like, also, I think it would make him less prone to running out the pocket and more prone to trusting his receivers downfield. And I think, honestly, as talented as he is running the football, he's so much more talented throwing the football. The moments where I go, oh my God, only Deshaun Watson could have made that play, or on his throws, right? That beautiful ball that he threw to DPJ, that beautiful ball that he threw to Amari Cooper in the Titans game. Those are the things that make Deshaun Watson special. What doesn't make him is like, there's a million quarterbacks in the league that can run as well or better than Deshaun Watson. He's a good runner, like no doubt, but he's not as special as a runner as he is a passer. And I think sometimes when you can run, it gives you that safety net, and you tend to use that safety net more than just trusting your ability that actually makes you special, which is you could process and throw a football in a really tight space in a really short amount of time. And I think that would make him such a better, it made Pat Mahomes a better quarterback. Once he realized this, I think you're seeing it make Lamar Jackson a better quarterback because he's trying not to take as many hits, right? It would make him a better quarterback. Like, it's not just, hey, we need you to stay healthy, so put the training wheels on and put the safety goggles on. Like, we're not telling him just to put his helmet on. You know what I mean? Like, if he's riding a bike. We're saying, hey, do this because it's going to make you better. Like, it will make you so much better at this because he has the ability to do this for a very long time. The arm talent is more talented than Cam Newton. Like, he makes nicer throws than somebody like that. But his career could easily end up like that if he's not cognizant of these hits he's taking and adjust his game. He doesn't have to change it, but just adjust it.
Well, luckily for us, we've got a long time to think about it.
Hey, look, we're not going to know until like November because we got to see games stack on top of each other, you know? So hey, we're going to be wondering about this for a little while here. It's going to be a mystery, but I'll be here for the ride. Cam will be here every week for the ride, as long as I don't get on her nerves. So appreciate you for that. Appreciate you for the insight, Cam. Anything you want to plug before we head out?
You know, Next Man Up, just going strong. I haven't posted. I haven't posted the one because it was just a really weird situation. I want to do that, but it will be coming out. It aired already. It's DeJuan Jones was the latest. So that's the article's up. I haven't shared it out, and I haven't shared the video, but he was the next man up, and it's funny. If
you ever get into DeJuan Jones's ear, tell him he needs to trademark DeWall Jones. You know what I mean?
Paul Jones.
Yes.
I will find him next time I'm over there and I'll tell him.
Yeah, DeWall Jones.
I'll come back to
you. Know what I mean?
Next time we're on here, and I'll
we'll negotiate rights fees. I'm just kidding. But that's I've been thinking like that's the perfect nickname for him because he's a walking wall. I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure somebody's had to come up with it. It's not that creative. Like.
Listen, but you know, you've got ownership of it, so I'll let him know. I'll be like, hey, have you done this yet? Put it on t-shirts.
Yep.
You guys gotta like maybe you work in with his camp.
It'll be on my Twitter bio. I'll be like the creator of the nickname DeWall Jones.
DeWall Jones.
The originator. But thank you for coming on, Cam. Always a joy to have you on. Everybody else have a great day. Have a good night. It's a long video, but I think there's a lot in here for you guys to enjoy.